Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. So, a lot of stuff went down. Obviously, picking up where last week's episode left off, it is that situation of the team kind of being a little tense because it's something that kind of gets interesting because one dude was kind of like, is it always like this? Or like, well, yeah, the weird missions, yeah, the whole fighting thing, no, because it's like you see, Team S.h.i.e.L.D. so at each other's throat. You have Daisy being pissed at Yo-Yo about what she did, and also the fact of the matter is Fitz is free, being able to do whatever he wants to, but it's like if it wasn't for us, it's all this back and forth. Yo-Yo thinking she did the right thing, Matt being mad at Yo-Yo for what she did, and Yo-Yo being like, the only reason you're just mad because I didn't follow your orders. The only reason why you're here is because Coulson made the decision to bring you back what he shouldn't have, because you coming back was a liability. So it turns into that whole thing where Coulson's just like, shut up. I'm giving commands this time. Go deal with your orders. So yeah, the whole conversation between Mac and Yo-Yo. Obviously, Mac is pissed at not what Yo-Yo did, because it's like, that's not what we do. We don't just outright murder people. We try to find different ways about it, because we're not a sword. We are a shield. We are meant to protect, not just go out and murder someone. It's like, because it's like, yeah, you can claim it was for the purposes of like, no, I'm trying to save the world. But at the same time, it's like, you were motivated by vengeance. It's the woman that took away your arms. So it's like, whether you deny it or whether you admit it or not, like, there will always be some belief that it's like, that was partly the reason why you did what you did. Plus, the fact of the matter is Yo-Yo's holding on to valuable information that she hasn't let anyone in on. And that is like what she knows about this whole circumstances. So it's even more in her head that she has to be the one to do everything. But for Mac, it's like, we promised that we wouldn't change. But for Yo-Yo, it's like, everything I'm doing is to protect you, because we know about the future. But for Mac, it's like, I'm tired of hearing about all this future talk. The fact of the matter is, everyone's so caught up in what the future. Yes, it's a big part of the story, but it's such an interesting thing to be like, you're so focused on what the future has. It's like, I'm focusing on what's right here and now, worried about trying to make a better future rather than what the future, because everyone's walking on eggshells because no one knows like whether they're doing the right thing or they're feeding into this time. That's the big thing with Simmons and Fitz, because that's where they stand, and Yo-Yo's trying to do what she can to try and change the timeline. But for her, it probably feels like everyone else isn't doing enough to try and change it, even though it's in the back of everyone's mind to do it. She probably feels like she's the only one that's actively trying. I did like that line she told him, Mac. It's like, even when I love you, even when I run away, you know that I always come back to her. So I was like, oh, that was a beautiful line, just obviously, reflecting her abilities and stuff like that in that sense. For him, it's like, who says I'm going to be here when you get back? Because she's not the same woman that he loved, doing all of these things, acting the way she is. Like, this isn't who we are. We don't do these type of things, So it's kind of sad to see everything kind of breaking down between them like this, because they're the relationship you've been rooting for such a long time. Just like Fitz and Simmons, you've been rooting for it. You've been rooting for this one as well. And to see things kind of get to where they are. Because it's something that even like Yo-Yo says, like, oh, you got to trust me. I know what I'm doing. I'm like, the moment she said that, I was like, no, you don't. And I'm not trying to single you out. None of you know what you're doing, because none of you know like whether or not you're playing into this whole timeline loop. That's the whole point. I mean, not trying to fault anyone, but it's crazy to think anyone knows what they're doing under these circumstances. These are the most extreme and extenuous circumstances that ever existed. This is like the antithesis of time travel and knowing the future and because it's also something that Deacon brings up. Because for him, it's like, oh, the multiverse theory, that basically there's multiple timelines. It's kind of what he's believing, because it's like, oh, for all you know, we might already be kind of going onto another timeline that basically, because I exist, like you and grandma can like exist between those two boundaries, between a single timeline and multiple timelines. Like, you can probably find some middle ground and create a new timeline in between that. But for Fitz, it's like, the fact is that you're still here proves that the fact could be proof that we are in that current timeline, that, because they still got that belief that like nothing can be changed. Big argument when it comes to time travel, can it change, or will everything always turn around and make it so that it goes back to how it's supposed to be? Like, the end result will always be the same, even if you go about roundabout ways. It seems like Simmons is kind of caught in the middle where she wants to believe in. Fitz is kind of stuck in his own way, where you have Deacon kind of believing another way. So it's just kind of interesting seeing them kind of having that stuck in the middle. And obviously, all this kind of comes up when it turns out like, oh yeah, where's Daisy? Okay, Daisy went to, look into the Deathlot project to find out if there's a way of saving you. And then Yo-Yo lets it out. It's like, I should, no. Even when I killed Ruby, everything's still playing in the way it's supposed to be. And then drops the bomb about the whole Coulson situation, which May doesn't care. She's like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. The fact of the matter is we're not dead. We're not defeated yet. We can still fight, meaning things can still change, that Coulson can still be safe. Like, legitimately, she cares for him, and not just cares for him, she loves him. So obviously she's going to fight tooth and nail to keep him around for as long as possible, whether Coulson wants that or not, which obviously he doesn't, but still. But for Yo-Yo, she's like, I'm sorry that I kept this from you. It's like, it's kind of interesting. Like, if you wanted the timeline to potentially change, you probably should have brought that up earlier, because Coulson is the biggest proponent for being like, hey, I should die. Whereas everyone else, Daisy, because we still don't 100% know where everyone else is. Like, the two outspoken people is May and Daisy, but like everyone else has kind of been quiet on the subject. It's like, oh, it sucks, but we haven't really heard what Mac, Fitz or Simmons really want with this situation. Do they want Coulson to be safe, or do they want to abide by his rules and be like, okay, that's his life, his decision. If he wants to end it, he doesn't want to kind of be brought back by any other means, then so be it, So I'm curious to see where they lean on it. They haven't made their stance on this whole thing. I'm even curious about Deacon. Where does he stand on this whole situation either? So, but I love the basically shitty turn of events where it's like, oh yeah, those aliens, the Confederacy, are attacking above the lighthouse, no communications, and it's like, okay, what program should we run? It's like, oh, it's this, and it's like, well, Coulson picks number 2, which is nuclear attack. Then after he selects it, 3 pops up, and it's alien attack. And he's like, wait, what? He's like, what? And May's like, what did you do? He's like, how was I supposed to know there was going to be an alien attack feature? I guess it's understandable because he probably felt like that's such a new thing, worrying about alien attacks. It's like, there's no way they would have had that set up this early in the event. Oh, apparently they did. Which does beg the question, what did the alien prevention measures kind of look like? And May was just snapping at him. That's why you always look at the full menu before you decide. I just love that that's the problem. And it's like, we're kind of being, this will protect us from an alien attack. But besides, it'll kind of keep us locked in here, potentially for 15 years. So there's that too. But hey, it's not, it's not all bad, so it's just kind of interesting trying to look at the silver lining to the situation. It's just a wacky turn of events like that. It's like, I'm just curious what the alien preventions would have been like. But interesting enough, it doesn't seem like it's all the aliens, but at least the ones that I'm blanking on the dude's name. We heard it last episode from Hale, but the dude running everything. It's these aliens he's sending that are kind of like scavengers. Deacon's had experience with them because they've experienced them in the future. Like, there was no stopping these things. It's just kind of like hey, we gave them what they want and they left, but they not before they ended up killing a lot of people. So that's how they dealt with them in the future. Because these things seem unstoppable. Weapons don't do anything. Bullets in particular don't really do anything. These things, like the way he described it, it's like, oh, they have magic that they can see in the dark, but it's maybe something like highly tech related or whatever. But they also like kind of have EMP, like we never actually see them activate a device, so it might be something within their biology or whatever, or maybe there's just tech that they have, but they basically knock out all electronics, so a lot of weapons and the lights kind of flick. Like, it kind of adds this element I thought was kind of nice. Added almost like this horror element to it. It's like, oh, you got to watch out for this monster horde that's coming. The things seem pretty unstoppable, and this all kind of feeds into Talbot's story because he wants to kind of make up for this. Did not see it coming that he would be the one to download, fuse with so much of the gravitonium. Did not see that coming. So it begs the question. So it was like, is it him then? Because so much because that was kind of almost my thought was 100% like, oh, it's going to be Coulson. He's going to be one, like, under whatever circumstances, he's going to be the one, and maybe Daisy has to consume it fuse with it to take on Coulson to stop him, or maybe it's just Daisy on her own has to stop him with just her natural quake abilities. Either way, I was no shape or form did I think, oh, Talbot's going to be the one. Pretty brutal too, because doing kind of what Ruby did, but it seems like he has a lot more control over it than Ruby did because he lifted those guys up and squished them. Maybe it's because he got more of the gravitonium, so it added some kind of balance to it. Maybe that's Talbot. It seems like it's Talbot when he's talking. He's like, I told you I could fix things. So maybe it's because he already kind of has a jumbled mind because of all the things that S.h.i.e.L.D. did to him. so that makes it harder for the gravitonium, or rather the voices inside the gravitonium, to kind of run things in him. So maybe that helps him in the long run. I mean, to be fair, Ruby was like a teenager, so maybe she didn't have like what came with wisdom and fortitude, you know, in her mind, you know, why it was so fractured by those things. And I don't know. Like I said, with Ruby, she absorbed 8%, but of what was there, Talbot fused with 100% of it. And so the last time we see of him is him levitating a panel, like a chunk of the floor with Phil on it. So it's like, why are you bringing Phil specifically? Why not just go handle it yourself? Why are you bringing Phil? So I guess he's planning on attacking them head on. I'm curious to see like what they end up doing with this. Like I said, I was curious to see what role Talbot was going to play. Like obviously he's the potential spy just because his head's like jumbled up and everything. But we'll see if ultimately that ended up kind of helping him in the long run. It's kind of a weird comparison to make, but it's basically like Killjoys. It's like Gavin from Killjoys. All the experiments that were done in his head actually help him in the overall main plot of the show. I won't really go into spoilers for it, but something you learn about like season 1, right? Well, season 1, rather season 2, it pops up. Did you kind of find out like all that stuff that happened to him prior is what made him resistant to it, and kind of like where he is right now in the series is because of that. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about. Now I'm thinking maybe the same thing applies to Talbot. So what I also thought was kind of interesting too is like obviously Yo-Yo still got the mentality to like no, I can't die, and that dude that's with her and Piper, like they hard cut to just him in the middle of the story, and Piper's like, wow, you did that with just a scar, and he's like, yep. And she's like, does anyone else know that? He's like, I don't think anyone cares. And immediately in my brain I go, is that supposed to be kind of like this little inside joke because he's not like a big main character? He's one of those characters that's there that you kind of know about, like Piper, but it's like you're not the big focus because you're not one of like the main team or something like that. You're kind of like a recurring character. Is that what that was supposed to be a joke for? Because I assumed it. I'm actually surprised they didn't just, because I also thought like, is that them setting up just killing him right now just to be assholes about it or something like that? Because it's like, oh yeah, he has a story about not dying and then immediately kill. You know, I thought that might be what they're setting up. Turns out not to be the case at all. So that was kind of interesting. So like I said, we still don't know whether this whole situation is going to turn out 100% good with the whole Talbot thing, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. I did like the immediate thing at the end of being like, oh, look, looks like any problems in the atmosphere are gone. It looks like you managed to survive. Which, side note, I love Patrick Warburton. I should have brought it up the first time like that programming got introduced this season. I should have thought, I meant to bring it up in that particular episode, but I forgot. It's like, I adore Patrick Warburton. He's so good. He's so cool. Nevertheless, but I like that. It was almost like surviving like a horde of zombies or monsters. It was just kind of like a, oh man, you survived the night essentially. Like I said, it almost had like that little horror-esque feel to it. So I thought it was kind of nice. But along with all of that, we do find out more about Daisy's situation, which is interesting. She talks to Tony and he's like, yo, did you hear about that stuff that's going down in New York? And she's just like, I don't have time for that. And it's like immediately I go, okay, thank you. There's your Infinity War reference. Once again, as no surprise, at the time of recording this, I have not seen Infinity War yet. Probably be a little while before I see it, but not necessarily 100% by choice, just because of the way things are. Nevertheless, please don't spoil Infinity War. And I don't want, like, I just had a feeling like that's what was going to end up being, because that kind of just assumed in my mind, it's like, oh yeah, basically a lot of like the chunk of Infinity War that the world knows about takes place in New York. Like, because a lot of the stuff that show Thanos didn't show him actually in New York, at least with the trailers and stuff. He was in Wakanda or that other place where you see him, Tony, Doctor Strange, and Star-Lord, well, the Guardians, like whether that's like another planet or something like that. Where they fighting him in a trailer. Like, it seems like a good chunk of it is Wakanda in there. So everything that goes down in New York is just with that ring. So beyond that, they might not know anything. Plus, Wakanda's whole situation is just kind of like, well, it's a secret place. So any fighting there, no one's really going to know about because it's hidden away. So, which kind of is interesting because it's Infinity War, yet it's on such a large scale, on such a small scale, assumably with one of the biggest antagonists in the universe. It's just kind of funny. It's almost like it's almost like an oxymoron in a sense, you know? So I just thought that was kind of a just nice little one-liner. Like I said, there probably won't be anything else from it. Like I said, because I was like wondering how they're going to handle that and all the stuff going on with Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D., but I figured that was going to be like what it was. And it turns out to be the case. So basically, it's this thing called the centipede serum. We've come across that before, haven't we? Well, yeah, because they talk about Garrett having it, so there's that. But was that the only time that's ever popped up? The centipede serum. I feel like it popped up other times other than just Garrett. But nevertheless, it is missing one key ingredient, and it's something that only like we find out what it is. It's like, oh, it's like he didn't know where to go to find it, and then Daisy looks at it, it's like it's not a where, it's a whom. And we see her at the end of the episode digging up her mom's body, and it's like, right, because for it you need like a strong healing factor type of thing for it. And it's like, okay, it makes sense because Daisy's mom has one of the strongest healing factors in this whole situation. Let's not forget, like, Whitehall cut her body to pieces and she was able to come back together. Yeah, it still left her with scars, but still, it kind of showed you how strong her regeneration was. So it kind of makes sense. Plus, like, a lot of like their technology and experiments were probably based around her healing factor and stuff like that. So, which is kind of sad in a way that Daisy has to dig up her own mom. But I guess that speaks volumes too, because it was still hard, but she never had any special attachment to her mom. It's not like she really knew her mom. For her, it's like probably like, might be kind of messed up me doing what I'm doing, but hey, it means I get to save Coulson in the end. So ultimately, we'll see what that ends up being, because Coulson probably won't accept it. It might be a situation where Daisy puts it on him even though he doesn't want it. It might be kind of the flip of what, Fitz did to her. She might be in that same situation where it's like Fitz forced you to get your powers back. He kind of removed that limiter from you and that blocker from you, and you're like, he didn't give you a choice in everything, and you never forgive. So it's probably a similar thing where she probably doesn't give Coulson a choice because she loves him and cares too much about him. We all do. So I'm not about to, no matter what you have to say. So we might see kind of her kind of being in those shoes and kind of understanding where Fitz comes from. That's 100% me guessing, but. Also, really quick, I forgot to bring this up too. The dude that's part of the Confederacy that's kind of running things, when he touched one of the dude's heads, it seems like he was able to give them a map. Because that was the whole thing. It's like, how do you know the entire layout of the lighthouse? It's like, I don't get that. Like, how did you do that? Either it's because they have like some kind of psychic connection, or maybe there's technology in their ship that allowed them to do that. That was something that wasn't really covered. But at one point, he touches one of the dude, like that dude's head, and or I don't know whether it's a device or was a dude's head. It looked like it was a dude's head, and was basically like, okay, you know where to go. So I don't know whether he can naturally do that, or was it like him projecting his mind into this alien dude who's connected to the others, and they were able to know where to go through that psychic map that was kind of in their heads. I don't know. So, like I said, a lot of interesting things went down in this episode. So, I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good